I don't want our presentation to be confused that we are suggesting that authors offload working in the CALI author tool to a third party. That's not what we're suggesting. We're actually proposing that when you're working collaboratively, quite often it's to your benefit if you bring in somebody to your group that has a certain skill set and experience, such as an instructional technologist or an emerging technology librarian or someone in that area.
The idea is if you're a little bit nervous about working in CALI Author, partner with somebody who has more experience and work together with them, and that way you can get your toe in the water, you can see how everything plays out, get familiar with the tool, and then you'll be ready to make your own lessons where you can do it on your own. So that's one of the advantages of working collaboratively. And if you work with someone, it's really important that it is somebody that is a permanent staff, someone that's going to be around. So if there's any questions about the lesson, the folks from CALI can quickly and easily contact that person, whoever actually worked directly in the tool, to make any changes or if there's anything that needs to be done. So that's really, really important. But the idea of the collaboration is to get people of different skill levels to work together, have fun in the lesson, make the lesson, and get a little bit more confidence so they can do it on their own.
Yes, and I'm sure we all have horror stories about relying on a student assistant or GRA, and the project ends up straddling 2 semesters or 2 academic years, and you lose all that knowledge and have to train somebody again. So having someone on full staff actually participating has always worked well. But how do we get to an instructional technologist? One of the first things that I did in my capacity as IT director, and actually was one of the smarter things that I did, was I lobbied and eventually lobbied the administration and eventually hired an instructional technologist. And this was because our IT department actually did an absolutely wonderful job of outfitting our classrooms with a standard baseline of technology. We've developed custom apps and web services by both our IT staff and some rather talented programming faculty. So we had all these services available to our faculty, but they just really weren't using them. And yet, our faculty seemed eager and excited to use technology in the classroom. So by hiring an instructional technologist and bringing Chris in the fold, we were able to actually bridge that divide and get our faculty using our technology. She would go and she would meet with them individually, identify exactly what their teaching goals were, evaluate what systems we have available that we're currently supporting, and then actually go back and talk to our IT guys if there is something that we weren't supporting but maybe we should actually be considering. Consequently, we saw a big spike in the use of technology in the classroom. And probably more importantly, I feel confident that that technology is being used effectively in the classroom because Chris is involved in it, rather than just using technology for technology's sake. I'm singing their praises.
Thank you.
So when it came time actually to pen the follow-up to our primary Georgia resources CALI lesson, I was eager to bring Chris in and see what we could do having an instructional technologist among the authors. So we, in the past, we've divvied up our responsibilities, went off to our own offices, and then played this little dance about who gets to be a CALI author at any given moment. We write emails to each other. I'm going to CALI author, stay out. And then you say, I'm off a CALI author, and someone else sends an email. I'm in CALI author, and you send them an email. No, I'm already in CALI author, and I forgot to send an email. And it's this large pile of emails that just start accumulating. It wasn't the most efficient way of managing working in the tool. So we eventually figured out it's easier to actually just schedule time in the author, and that's what we ended up doing. And then only later did we as a group go back and ask questions and actually put the questions in and explore CALI author for what all the value that it provides. And we were a bit late in doing so it almost felt like the questions kind of peppered the exercise. They weren't actually integrated into the exercise. So the thought of having somebody from the get-go actually looking at those things, I thought, was of great interest to me, at least. So when we invited Chris to join, my expectations were simply, okay, we'll funnel most of the CALI work. We'll come up with a system. We'll funnel most of the CALI author work through Chris. and then we'll talk to her about what questions we think would best reiterate the teaching points that we hope to communicate. But in doing so, I think I greatly underestimated the contributions that she could offer. What an instructional technologist allowed us to do was revisit the way that we actually taught or wrote the lesson. We thought about how it flowed a lot more, a common voice that actually went consistently through the entire lesson. She actually ended up managing the project for us and keeping us on track. She's quite the taskmaster, too. And then while we were writing, she was actively exploring what CALI Author can do for us. So we're making the most of the tool. And the one thing that was unexpected through this entire process was that she brought a certain enthusiasm that we did not expect. We're law librarians. We're excited by secondary Georgia materials. It's who we are. We understand that. That's the case. We're not necessarily excited by the CALI authoring tool. We like it. It's a great tool. We learn to use it, and it's very helpful. But that's not our area of expertise. It is an instructional technologist. So Chris actually, through the entire process, was exploring what you could do in CALI Author. Was excited about using it and learning it because she was then going to turn around and talk to other faculty members about possibly penning lessons with them. And that was just a win for us. That it was a certain excitement that we weren't quite expecting. So with that as the backdrop of how we were collaborating in CALI Author, I'll hand it off to Chris to explain how she kept us all on point.
We had several authors working on the lesson for Georgia Secondary Sources, and so one of the first things that we did is we got everyone together to have a meeting to discuss, okay, what is the goal of this lesson? That's the first step, is to analyze the content, determine the learning goal for your lesson, and try to say it in 2 sentences, keep it brief. And so I actually have that hardly legible on the screen, but we'll make the handouts available for you. So once everybody could agree on what the learning outcome was that they wanted for the lesson, it was then time to sit with everyone and discuss, okay, well, what are the objectives? What are the tasks that you're going to ask the learner to do? And then what order of operations has to happen? How are you going to structure those tasks so that way you get that desired learning outcome? And so once we got that basic material together in our first meetings, we were able
Well, actually, if I can actually interject right
Sure,
there.
go right ahead.
That was a very interesting process because there was a negotiation among the authors about what the learning objectives were. And it was very helpful in getting us all on the same page of what we were trying to do. Sorry.
Oh, that's right. Once we got on that same page, it was time to look at how we were going to take the material for the lesson and who was going to write what section, what particular area of secondary sources, who was going to take the finding aids, and who was going to deal with the treatises and everything else. So we created an outline of the lesson in another meeting. We sat down and then we split up the content on, okay, this section is going to go to this author and so forth. And then each author became what was known as the subject matter expert for that particular piece of content.
We felt very special.
So that way, they basically, this is my section, this is how I'm doing it, and we'll discuss changes and all that, but basically they were primarily responsible for how things were going to happen in that section. So in the process, one thing that we wanted to stress was in the first lesson, which was the primary sources lesson, it was amazing. They had a really great hypothetical. They told a story. And so we wanted to take that same story and carry it through in the secondary sources with the same characters. And the reason why you want to use a story to tell your lesson, to help get the content over to the learner in the lesson, is it makes it more interesting. They're actually following when someone would do a search, because here's a situation where they're needing to search for this particular item. So it helps make those little mental hooks of why I'm doing a particular task and when I should do it based on a story. So Terrence kind of had the fun job of coming up with the original the story pattern that was going to carry from the primary sources into the secondary sources lesson. So did you sit around and spend a lot of time thinking about it, or did you just, how did that work for you?
Well, that was fun. As you know, all of us are aspiring fiction writers, so actually having a small window to actually be creative was actually somewhat welcome.
So once Terrence got his piece together with the introduction and the story and shared it with us, we were like, okay, this is going to be really fun. So during the writing process, when everybody was starting to write their pieces of their lesson, we had them working in a storyboard, which was just a simple Word document. You can do this in a variety of ways. I have an example that we'll provide to you and I'll show you. It's just a simple table. But basically by having them work in a template, in a Word document or a script, and outside of the tool, they could put everything they wanted and then be able to pare it down, and then we would build the lesson from there in the authoring tool. It was important to take those scripts. We came to meetings. We had regularly scheduled brief meetings. I know everyone's busy, and oh gosh, here comes another meeting. Do we have to meet? Even if you're meeting for 5 to 10 minutes, it helps keep everybody on track. That you're making sure that what they're writing when they talk about it, okay, well, I've gotten this section done, is actually not straying off course for what you're trying to teach in the lesson. That you're not going too far in depth somewhere, or that you're going completely off the path. And also, if someone was falling behind, you could find out, okay, obviously some other things have come up. Another person could jump in and help out. So those meetings, just make sure to schedule those meetings. If you're going to work with multiple authors, keep in communication. Even if it's over the telephone, if it's not necessarily face-to-face, but that's really, really important to have those meetings during the process.
And building upon a point that you just said, one of the challenges of actually working with other authors is ensuring that you're actually offering the same treatment of materials regardless of who the author is that's writing. So we can go into incredible depth about any resource that we actually want to write about, but making sure that actually it's consistent from resource to resource, so we don't go into incredible depth on one thing and gloss over and have our learner actually take from them that one has a great priority than the other.
And also it helped in the process as we reviewed the scripts during our meetings that everyone was speaking in the same voice, so it sounded less like it was being written by multiple people. So, Terrence, actually you were the person that kind of went through and made sure that everything was sounding the same and it didn't sound like it was being written by a bunch of different people. So. When you're writing, it's really important to think visually. Look at other CALI lessons and try to get an idea of, okay, what am I trying to convey? And another trap that people fall into sometimes is they'll look at all the different screen types available in CALI Author, like, okay, wow, well, I haven't used this particular slider screen. I didn't use a slider screen in my lesson. Well, a slider screen may not be the best choice for conveying the content that you want to convey, what you want to tell the student. So don't just use a screen type for a screen type's sake. Well, I didn't use it, so I better put one in. Make sure you're picking the screen types that are going to make it easier for the learner to absorb the information that you're presenting.
Yeah, I remember the first time I actually did a lesson, I think I used every single question type CALI Author had, just so I could say I used every single. And it probably wasn't the best decision in the world, but it was a learning experience.
Then building the lesson was really, really fun. While we had the basic outline prepared, I went into CALI Author and I went ahead and set out the outline and I put in the pages as placeholders without the information put in. So I fleshed everything out. And so as the scripts started coming in, before I started putting every piece of content in, the individual authors could actually look at the lesson and see the outline and have a better picture of what the whole lesson looks like. And then as we started I got the scripts in, I would start putting the actual text and make the placeholders for media or write a media description of what we needed to get for each section. And started fleshing out the lesson. And as I got that media list going through, we talked about, okay, what books do we need and what are we going to take pictures of. You can just grab a camera and take your own photos. If you have somebody that's a really good photographer, you can ask them to do it. We also incorporated some screencasts in, so I went ahead and took that on. I really enjoy doing those, where we just showed simple screen captures of doing a video of doing simple searches that pertain to looking for secondary sources. So I went ahead and I took care of those. But again, you would find someone who's most comfortable with working with a particular media type, and that would be the person that you would have to do it. So it's really important when you're meeting and discussing who's going to do what to find out what each person would like to do. If they want to take pictures or if they want to go ahead and tackle doing a screencast or maybe a podcast or something you're going to include in the lesson.
Yeah. And the screencasts were a very welcome addition to the lesson, which we probably would not have done if you hadn't been involved or even thought of.
One of the things too is the person who's going to be corralling the media, making sure we have all the pictures and everything. It's really good to use a consistent naming convention for each file. So for example, if you have an intro section, I'm just using these as an example, I threw them together really quick. Because you may decide as you start putting things in and are checking the flow of the lesson, you may add pages or take pages out. You go in increments of 10. So for example, if it's introduction, screen 1, I have screen 10. So screen 2 would be screen 20. And that way if you have to move things around, it's still chronological, because then you can have S15, S16, S17. So everything is still chronological. So you can do a quick check when you have all your images in the file folder. You can quickly see, okay, I've got all the pages that I need. You're not missing anything. So that's one quick way to do it, and it's just really easy to identify, oh, this graphic goes on this page.
And when Chris shows the planning script that we use, that was incredibly helpful when it came to me to actually think while you're writing what images do you need, what screencasts do you need, and then build upon that.
And again, if you're using video, this is something I talked about a little bit earlier in another session. Just like you write a script for your CALI lesson in advance, it's really, for me, I thought it was much easier to write out in advance, okay, this is the search we're capturing, okay, it's going to be this action on the screen. Just write it out in a Word document or in a PowerPoint, however you want to do it. And then when you capture your video and record the audio and put everything together and publish it out, it's really important. CALI Author has on their video page a built-in set of video controls. And so if the video you publish out has its own set of controls, it's going to be problematic putting it in, because you're going to have two sets of controls and it's confusing and doesn't work right. So if you have embedded controls when you publish out your video and you don't know how to take them out, just let CALI know, because Devin and Sam can take care of that for you. They'll give you a special file to put in. So so screencasts can be fun to do.
Yeah.
And then finally, after you get everything in, each page has a review tab on it, and we use that extensively. We would go in, review the lesson, and make comments on each page. And that way I would take the responsibility of actually physically going in and making changes on the page. And what the individual authors would do would use the review tab to put their comments on, okay, and they review each other's sections and say, well, you left out this one section, can you please put a sentence in about this, and so forth. And so I would go in and I would take a look at it, and then I would then make those changes from there. So it just made it easier having one person in your group who's authoring to go in and actually physically make the changes. Any comments on the review process? Well, actually,
one thing that I found very interesting with the review process is, and it also applied to adding the questions. Mm-hmm. In one particular instance, we had a question that we added that we thought was a great question. It was brilliantly written, and it was right on point. It was going to be absolutely perfect. It put across what we wanted to instill in the students. And Chris, reviewing our works, noticed that it's nowhere in the actual lesson.
It wasn't in the. They asked a question about something being covered, so it's like.
But it was in a pop-up, which is one of the failures of actually writing in a Word document or in a very linear way when you're actually going to translate it into CALI Author that has these multiple levels. So we considered it being available for all students to see, but unless they clicked on the link and saw the pop-up, that information was actually never conveyed, and we were able to actually reassess that this is something that we need to actually move into the body of that particular page and to take the pop-up out. So as you're writing, it makes perfect sense to you, but to have those extra set of eyes to realize the students actually never even saw what we were trying to...
Or could possibly skip over it.
Exactly. Was incredibly helpful.
So and that's one of the things, the really important part of when you split up the work and divvy up the work, and it's just to continually review. And again, it's collaboration, meeting and review. And then you'll finally get to the point where you're really comfortable with it, and then it'll go through the review process with Deb and CALI. But I was going to just bring up a quick sample of just an easy script you can use to get started. So nothing fancy about this. It's just a table. You've made your outline. You're going to have your topic, your introduction, topic 1, topic 2, topic 3. You just make the screen number. So it's an introduction screen 1. And then what screen type do you envision showing on the screen? Well, we're going to tell a story, so we're probably going to want to have an image on the screen of our characters, and then some text telling, the lead into the fact pattern or whatever you hypothetical. Then you have your area where you have your on-screen text, and then a description of the media. And so I would get these types of scripts in for each section, and that's how I knew how to build out in CALI Author the outline and put the pages in and start generating a list of media from the different folks on what they wanted to include. And then if there was something that I was like, well, that's going to be kind of hard to create, then I could go back and ask them, is there another image that might be better suited that won't be so difficult to do, or whether we needed to get drawings from the artists here at CALI that they use, who did a fabulous job with the drawings.
They are wonderful.
So, any comments on the scripting?
It actually was also really helpful in forcing us to organize our thoughts. If we actually break it down into the way that it appears in the CALI lesson, it's very helpful to keep yourself moving. Quite often when you're looking at that blank page and you have to keep writing and writing and writing, and you don't even think where the breaks appear or what is going to be the companion image to a particular screen, it can be problematic. But this script actually I found incredibly helpful as I was going through the writing process.
And again, this is what worked for us. You may find that as you go through, we bet we will work in PowerPoint during this. I mean, you can do whatever you want. But the idea is to just plan ahead in advance, script it out in advance before you get started. And then you can really pare things down, and it makes it easier for the person that is going to be responsible for, helping getting the content in the tool. And one of the other advantages that I find was really great for new authors is if you're pairing up in this process, you're going to work collaboratively with someone with more experience. It's a great visual to say, okay, this is how it works. So I wrote this, and then you see it in the tool, and you see, okay, this is where, okay, I'm on the question tab, this is text, this is where everything goes. This is where my image is going to get put in, and then they can go through and review it. It just helps make it a little bit easier so you can see what, how your script turns into an actual lesson in CALI Author. And then it helps them get a little bit more confident when you're working with someone who's brand new at it and you're trying to help them get comfortable with it. They can ask questions of you, and then they'll get more confident to be able to want to do it on their own.
And we did have one librarian who this was his very first lesson. It didn't take any time at all to get him up to speed using this mechanism.
But the review tab on each screen is incredibly useful. I mean, that is really good to put comments and stuff in there, and it's another way to
date your comments.
Yes, and make sure to put a date on your comments. But it really made the process go much more smoothly that way.
Yeah, and it also was helpful in these meetings. We would bring up the lesson and make all of our notes on the reviews screen as a group, and then actually incorporate them and not try to fix things on the fly, because quite often that can be disastrous.
So, in this process, I love this stuff, and this is fun for me. I really enjoy it. It was like one of the more cool projects I had to work on this year. I had like 2 of them, so this was great. And that was the one thing, the person who is building the lesson kind of has the more fun part, because you actually see it come to life. So you're like, wow, this is really cool as it's coming together. And so it was really easy for me to talk to the authors and be like, wow, what about this? And, how about, taking this approach? And, oh, wait, this is really cool. Check this out. So it was fun to try to keep everybody engaged and enthused in the process. And by focusing on the content and seeing how it looked in CALI Author, I think that made the process especially very much more interesting for Ron, because he was a little bit nervous at first.
Yes.
But I think it made him more comfortable in the long run.
Yeah, and the nice thing about the process that Chris presented for us was that once we reached the review point, we can actually go back and revisit what our original goals were and evaluate, did we actually reach those goals? Did we go on tangents that were unnecessary, and tweak the final product?
And we could add in a page if we missed something. We can take out a page if it was too much. So it was a really fun project, and I hope each of you will think about working with another author, one less experienced, one more experienced. Pull your talents together and have fun creating a CALI lesson.
And I would even challenge you to work with a less experienced author in order to get them some experience and comfort in CALI Author.
Does anybody have any questions about what we covered? So, just in a nutshell, analyze the content. What is the learning outcome that you want? Get everybody together in a meeting and brainstorm and come up with that. Keep it brief so you can stay on track. Then come up with the tasks that you want your learners to do. What are the objectives? What order of operations they need to do it in? and then make your outline, look at the sections that you're going to have in your outline, divvy up the work, meet regularly. Even though it seems, even if it's brief for 5 minutes, but it just keeps everybody moving and excited about the project, and it keeps everything on track. And then as the scripts start getting developed, the person who is going to be working in CALI Author can make the outline and put the pages in, dump the content in as it comes in, make your media list, start shooting your media, put it in, and then review. So.
Question?
I have a question for
Yeah.
Deb, actually.
Oh, hi.
Do you know if CALI will ever offer any type of cloud computing options so that two people working from different institutions on the same lesson could, like, instead of passing it back and forth via email, they could just log in and work on the same thing?
Love the idea. An internet web-based version, to be redundant, is in the talking stages. So yes, that would be a use for it.
And I have one suggestion on that approach as well, which of course Earl will be very happy that I mentioned this. There are a lot of open source tools out there that you can talk to your system administrator or your IT staff about. Products like Alfresco, which is open source, and it's like a little SharePoint site where you could actually have a shared space on the web where you could put your CALI lesson and then work from there. So again, we had the benefit of a very flexible system administrator who created a shared drive for us, so we all could see the files in the shared drive. But if you were going to work in different institutions, maybe depending on the flexibility of the IT staff and what resources are available, something like Alfresco might be helpful.
And since we have some collaborating to do, I'll come up with some way for us to share files.
Okay.
And the other person you're working with may have access to a SharePoint site that they could get permission for you to be able to access from there as well.
Any
No questions? I see smiles. Well, that's a good thing. Hopefully that is encouraging.
Yes.
Does CALI have any other online publishing options other than lessons? Do they publish other stuff for faculty?
We're working on an Elaine Dell casebook project, which would be casebooks.
Yep.
We've got our Legal Education Commons, which if you go onto the website, it's under one of the tabs. I think maybe Tools is the tab. And there right now we have some materials that faculty have loaded up, like Word document type of material. But in theory, you could put up any sort of media you wanted. We've got a lot of images. Our freelance artist has made 360 images at this point for us, and we've got a lot of those posted that you're welcome to take and use in your PowerPoint class presentations or whatever. So those are other materials that we've got. We've got a lot of podcasts out there, audio files, obviously. If you go to our classcaster.org site.
And that's really easy too, because you can make podcasts just using your phone. So
Right.
it's just so easy.
Yeah, and you can also, I believe, make a blog on your Classcaster page now. I've never done that, but I hear it's all the rage.
But again, I just had a lot of fun with this project, and it's like some of the other projects that were not that they're not fun,
No, they're fun.
but this was like, oh, okay, I could be writing lessons on the Canon copier, or writing instructions on how to do this particular thing in Office, or I can go work on the CALI lesson. I'm going to work on the CALI lesson, so it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.
So really early.
Yeah. We'll get our afternoons off.
We did warn them.
What?
Oh, we're just saying so this is, you don't get to learn CALI out there.
I'm sorry.
Use this as an excuse not to learn CALI out there.
No, I'm sorry, I got here late. I got caught.
I don't know Nana because she went to the work course, so what aspect. I just know that we had Nancy Johnson, Ron Wheeler. That was who I sure
Yeah, okay.
I haven't seen Nana in a while, but she has lots of
Yeah.
experience.
Docs, so that's not the same size. Sure.
So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that will be interested in like.
Yeah, we would come up with something that,
We'll see.
it'll work for us because I think Transformers is a
either the
Right.
librarians and I believe are they active in lessons?
I don't have that Pam and Michael. Well, Michael actually left. He's also with
No, I don't.
so Pam is there. She's our. I think they changed her name. She's a time services librarian.
And then what's
now.
it for?
She's yeah, or actually she's now a reference librarian. I think they're hiring.
Sending it back and forth email.
But if it would
So-
work, if it worked sort of like,
Michael working
Yeah.
singly.
I didn't ask where. I just.
I should have, we have realized whenever.
So yeah, I don't know
Okay.
what the status is
And,
and
but we
what
haven't
they've done
really
in those
done much
positions
on
there.
it.
They've had search
the
meetings.
way it's been shown
I'm sure
to
they'll
me,
announce
I'm not
it.
adjusting is.
Do you have any questions on that? I just want to, no, just comment.
I'm also instructional technologist.
Oh, great, great.
Do you have to?
And I don't know what you're asking.
No, actually, we have so many options that we have. Obviously, we know about the elections, Blackboard, and Twin, West. We also have an iTunes View instance that's managed by our university, so we have some faculty members putting their content on iTunes View. We have an internal one that was hand-coded by one of our professors, Patrick Wiseman. We also have another one, our webmaster coded his own system called Agra. I literally made an interactive wizard.
Oh, no.
I'm like, okay, yeah, do you have any copyrighted material? They're like, yes, but no, boom. And then we had to go through that because then we had an e-results issue.
No.
So I actually have this wizard that tries to enter
When-
the separate options they have to put their materials up. Because again, they have so many different options to choose from. So, and it's hard because it from a tech staff standpoint, it's easier if you just have but then, again, we're part of the university and they recently brought on part of we call it the POS portal, but that also brought in another, in addition to their Blackboard instance, which is called
when you got the
Another
second
thing called Core Studio, which is like you learn life, so
It's
there's just so many options.
So it's,
So that's why the
I got
wizard
it
is a little
3
bit
times.
helpful.
Oh, because you're part of 3 lessons.
You know,
Yeah,
there's some
I
people who
realized,
are
oh,
adamant, I want to use Twin, there are other people who are like, they don't want
it just
Blackboard.
makes it out there.
And then there's some who really enjoy their Mac users and they do a lot of podcasts, they just want to put stuff. I missed a lecture.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you're dealing with this with Blackboard.
Yeah.
No one's retired now. Now.
Yeah,
Oh, gosh.
I mean, just about the camp copier, that's like one of the things is that I was like, oh, okay, I have to.
I know.
All right, okay, write instructions, that's what I do, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've had a lot of things, we switched our offices.
I sent out
had
a
to
CV
do
this
tutorials
morning.
and that, and everything's on now. And I'm not bashing our office, but if I had the choice of doing an Office 2007 tutorial or helping with a CALI lesson,
Let's do that.
what's my day?
Our research committee, project advisory panel, and
Okay, interesting, now the faculty are writing CALI lessons. I'm hoping that it's more interesting.
Because they want.
the author,
Just have CALI authors.
They have all these resources out there available, I think that was just an idea.
And what
To not use them is,
Well, what happens is when it comes to exam time, where students
Take a
come,
legal research
they
meeting
write
for a
down
project.
and they revise their panel.
At
And
Mr.
just kind of hold the.
Fair enough.
It's over about
It's about it.
Yeah,
Years ago.
right,
I know
That's
it's
okay.
Kathleen
That's
Catholic.
So everything is accurate.
And
Yeah.
that was 2 years ago. And then, two of the.
Yeah, so I think I gave them this deadline.
171.
I say like
It's
July.
my responsibility to teach, because I said,
They have to come back from double A,
and it's,
double
you
L.
know, I want to figure it out.
After the
And
calendar,
it's
people.
well, right, I mean, we've had a lot of times when we've had a quicker implementation where I had to work with
There's so much
quicker
crossover
training and also get those mentors and try to find different ways that they could use the quickers. We had a second client project, which
I
actually,
am going to get back into that too.
oh, it was really a really fun project, and I got to work more with the university, and that was one of the things from our role as an
You're
education
in there.
technologist, it's really important to find out what the university is doing.
Sure.
The organization
All
structure,
right.
and they may have resources out there that will really help your law professors.
Well,
out.
so
You need to be the library.
for him has created.
It was
second
awesome that they had pulled together really.
Scenarios
It's
for
brief
for
for
emails.
Oh, so they did the scenario role as well.
So,
It basically made you leave It's history.
And World Cup, Cali needs a flag.
Well, Jonathan said, I'm scared.
For a while,
Right.
so I'm definitely gonna get that one.
Well, that was the advantage of
What's the anthem?
was that we didn't have to create their avatars and have to learn how to manipulate the avatars.
But that's if we're in a second.
But yeah,
Right,
okay.
so, well, actually, there's software that you
Who
can
did
use
the
to capture
Eli
like
Dell,
second life. And you don't have to just use second life. She was
yeah,
just
those
time
cards
second
do.
life. I mean, everybody has video games like Halo to create animated shorts in the same way, so. Well, it depends on the software that you buy, and of course, I feel bad, I know the person that answers the questions. But no, I think James in our session, he talked about the products that he used to do the actual machinima, to capture it and everything, so I would talk to the person at the demo school who actually worked in second line. Yeah, it was an interesting project, but again, one of many things that we've been working on, we have infrastructure changes that are coming down the pipe that are gonna require us to make sure we have tutorial sessions.
No one's all the
instructions.
Gotta get stuff right.
Well, we've got, like, we're switching over to Active Directory, we're still on Develop, so that's gonna be a change, and we're switching away from GroupWise, we're GroupWise, and we're gonna be switching over to Outlook, so, and of course, that's dependent on the university, so we have to. And our thing is to just try to turn in users informed and ready in advance, so it's not so shocking to them. Because everyone has great faculty, but they all have different levels of technology. Some are users that have a problem with it, but they're quite comfortable on a computer, on a desktop, so, you know, it just depends on actually taking time to get to know your faculty and figuring out the protocols.
Yeah,
And that's a good way, by sitting and talking to them, again, I'm lucky because our faculty are very approachable, and we have a smaller number of faculty, but, so I have the time to actually go pop down and say hello, go through the halls of the fourth floor, and actually talk to them, find out what they're working on, and get ideas that I can go research and then suggest something to them, oh, do you want to try this, if you thought about using, you know, this particular product.
Moving to Atlanta and some stuff.
So that's the thing, is I like to talk to people, which, you know, we're so ingrained in technology to just answer service tickets, wait for them to come to us with a problem, wait for us to get an email saying you have a ticket, go
One
handle
person
it.
actually had a,
By taking the time, in addition to doing the tickets that are assigned to you, to actually physically talk to people,
and, you know,
makes a big
it
difference.
was
So
so painful.
I think it makes it a lot easier and less stressful too when you have
Like,
to.
you hadn't had an opportunity to blow it, you hadn't scored a goal, you know, it was just painful.
Well, anyway, I ended up talking about other things besides CALI Author, but please feel free to email me, and I'm happy to answer any questions about, you know, get started, you know, back in there, building a CALI lesson, and or how we put it together, you know, you just let me know.
So I
Or
can
call me
imagine
anytime.
situations. One guy was just, it was,
Or close.
Yeah, that's what I first heard. The first company that TV was set to that channel.
Yeah, we have, like I
so they
said, we
played the
have.
Federation Cup, which is a four-team little round robin. The year before the World Cup, it's an opportunity to just test out the stadium, security. It just gives
Especially
us
during the
and also be a team
usual
that
adjuncts
gets
that come every
seven.
semester, and then we have our litigation program in the spring.
And the U.S. played, so.
That's where we have a lot of
So the
That was
adjuncts
the first
coming
time
in.
ever.
And I just try to make sure I spend time talking to them when they come in to find out what they want to do and what they want to try. And, you know,
Figure out how to just drown out.
that's the best way to get
That
ideas.
sound
You can
for the
spot
next
people who
year.
are
That's gonna be
doing
the
it.
job.
I
This
never
is,
might be
how do we get these things
Trying
out of
to-
our broadcast?
So you just gotta talk to them, or do they make those relationships with them to find out, you know, where they are as far as their comfort level. And once they're more comfortable, you get them started, maybe some parallel for someone, maybe isn't so comfortable.
B flat would.
Do you have the opportunity to actually go around and talk to them?
I saw something online.
When I'm not
Are you
busy.
talking about
Yeah.
You can buy a device, put it next to your TV, and it plays the sound that's canceled.
Really?
It's on a consumer's report.
Oh, really?
So they actually made a device that's supposed to cancel most of the sound, or You can turn down treble on your TV all the way down to there.
We wound up for 4
And then you
years.
still have voices
And
and
every year
everything.
we
We can
pay
hear
our license to the
So that's all treble.
university. So that we
There's a
can
whole
use
article
the
on there
server.
about Consumer Reports.
That's
Interesting.
How
So
well
it's
the
really,
voice
yeah,
works and
interesting.
everything.
more people interested that,
We as Americans impose our way on everything.
Right. You call that music.
That's so boring. No.
so that's.
We have a
what
patented
we're
device.
Technically, we're gonna make money off of this.
So you're fun.
PowerPoint.
Our team isn't good.
Just remember,
It's
they're
not
probably
the US
still
where we
rolling
can
on
still.
the camera, so.
No problem.
They're still recording and they can record for full hours. But I think the big
But that was
thing
exactly what I was thinking, man.
is
When I
actually
listened to that
is
Federation.
take the time to talk to the end user, talk to your
Someone's gonna
client.
come up with something.
Because I also
And I was
think it's
disappointed I hadn't heard anything.
Yeah, it's on
Um,
what's the name of it that make noise?
You know, there are certain things that are
Uzo, Z,
other tasks that you have to do, and of course, there's always the
Yes.
frustration level, like if someone's having a problem, you know, they're not angry at you, they're just frustrated.
Let's stop.
So you have to
Booze-a-lot.com.
diffuse that a little bit. And try to this is not scary, this is actually fun. You
Help
know,
them get over that so they feel better.
Right,
You know,
right.
'cause we all want success.
right.
So I was thinking,
Oh, thanks, it was nice talking to her. And just want me to, actually, I do think it's okay.
Very quiet right now.
I always try to make sure I'm here for the Saturday morning presentations.
Right, that's nice.
My webmaster's leaving at like 7 a.m.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know how many people are flying out versus how many people.
Not bringing enough
They
hours.
are-
Oh, I see, I see.
Oh.
Here.
They just want
You
to.
need to be outside.
Actually,
One of them's ITV, you can run the broadcast through ITV and it'll
yeah, I'm actually.
There's another device one.
I will definitely email you my contact information.
And it's on,
No, it's fun. I mean, after the first day, I got used to it.
It's on like a beat kind of going around.
Right,
Yeah,
so
it's
we
like
have
all right.
part of the case management
Yeah.
software, and like one of our
Yeah.
professors just
For
recently
years,
did
like,
a law practice
where?
management
Oh,
course.
quiet. Come on, Brazil.
About using a SaaS
What do
solution,
you got?
so we ended up using Clio and usually use that as a teaching tool.
Oh, after this one?
Integrated in, because
No.
the
It's
circuit
part
simulations
of
that
their
was being put in.
Custom
Sure,
watching
right.
soccer
Which
games
is
you're gonna
Right.
learn.
you work
You
with.
can't go.
Using the web-based solution, it didn't require the students to have to install a client on their laptop.
Go to this baseball game.
Yeah, there's a variety of different products.
Actually, I was thinking
you know,
about,
there's
Georgia State is starting
Clio
its
and
football
people
program.
that will
First,
football
our
and
first year of our
really
football
well.
program. This.
But yeah, so I was just curious, so for next week, you have to deal with the training for the
Georgia
case
doesn't.
management software.
For time.
So I gotta go
Using
to the
time.
college a lot.
There's a dedicated
to go,
IT
so
person
it's
who
about
takes
43
care of
people.
all that. She's the
And
one
I
who
was
keeps
thinking
the
about-
software up to date. And
So
does
she
all
not
that
only does
stuff.
like the administration of the
And then
server
I'm-
and the clients,
She
she also
takes
does
care
the
of
training and manages the users, okay.
I mean, she does the training as far as.
Because we are on,
Right.
And then, of course.
We're on the 50-yard line, but
they're,
we're on the
This
visitor
is
side.
like awesome.
We did, yeah.
First
And then-
year in.
Because you all have like
We went in and
20.
said, okay, if we get a group of
Yes.
X,
Oh,
what do we
yeah.
do for us?
Just to have it
So
really,
Pounce is
really
gonna come
organized.
to our tailgate party.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
Which
if
is
you
what
want
Pounce
to,
is.
so this
Our
is like.
Panther mascot.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else I can ask you about as far as
Actually,
your organization.
after the,
Um,
after the World Cup,
So you're dealing with-
they're really cheap.
the distance learning products, you're dealing with your messes that are on your platform.
You put them up in second hand.
They'll probably start showing up on eBay.
Exactly.
In a few weeks as people drag them home and then realize, oh, I love
Are you
this.
all using
You're not
iTunes
carrying
at
this
all?
all the way across the world.
We're so lucky, we have a person at university group that deals with iTunes use, and they've automated the process.
We have it.
So, tell me about your trip.
We're having our problems.
You're weren't you getting an RV?
Yeah, oh, you heard about my RV trip?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what the destinations were.
Jacksonville.
You're
And
already
they said
going to
that they
family.
automated the whole
Right.
process.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Yeah.
It's very simple, the person logs in with their campus ID into iTunes Unity academic site, they hit a couple of buttons, and the course is created and you're ready, and you can just start uploading content. So if
How does it
someone
work?
does
It's actually
not
a
take
sound
they
Yeah.
that you
can actually
download.
go
You
upload
play it on
stuff
your
and delete
iPod or
stuff.
something next to
I'm
your
still trying
speaker.
to
And the
get the word
sound
out to
is
try to get more
cancel
people
out the
using
other
it.
side.
We do have like a couple people who use it,
Wow.
but love to put more stuff out there. We have a lot of promotional stuff.
But I thought the issue with the
Videos
Vuvuzela
and
was
events out
that
there, but it'd be nice to
it
get more
fluctuates.
package.
It's not a precise sound.
It is.
So it
Oh, yeah,
actually.
thank you.
Yeah,
That's
what
what
you're
you
describing,
do.
it sounds like a patent application, which sounds like,
Consumer Reports has a whole article on how to
That's incredible.
take it out. But it's actually a B flat and it's like 446 meg. I mean, it's down
Yeah.
to the megahertz and everything now.
Oh,
But there's
yeah.
another sound that you can
You
play
play
down
down.
and, yep, and it cancels, the two sounds are supposed to cancel each other out basically.
Wow.
We don't hear it.
That's incredible.
that's wild.
Yeah.
They'll probably find the year, like, the canceling out of the sound created the sound waves to, like, destroy your foundation of your home.
Boosting every drive
Disappointed
through.
that ESPN Classic doesn't have that as the option. You can watch the game with the Vuvuzela or without the Vuvuzela.
Yeah.
And then
They
they
can sort of
They
Yeah,
finalize
some people are really
report
fast
by-
through it,
That's
and I'm like,
okay.
and they're still recording, and I'm like talking about everything in addition to Callie out there, so. Making jokes about the
That's okay.
I hope it got
Thank
people
you.
interested in maybe trying it or getting it out to others to work together.
It was a great use of the review tab.
That was.
Because Sam put that review tab in, thinking the CEB would use it.
Oh,
And it
really?
turned out to be really awkward
Right,
for them to use it.
so it's great for all of
Oh, yeah,
us to
we
communicate
love
back
that.
and
Yeah,
forth,
but it's a
so.
great tool.
Instantly put it in for us.
Yeah.
So that's the purpose of
Sam did.
Sam's thinking about us.
I said, you know, because it was just so easy. It's just, oh, you know, that's where you put all this stuff.
Right.
Okay, Lone Straggler, any questions?
I'm good, thank you. I'm enjoying the Vuvuzela conversation.
Well, let's see who won today.
Yeah.
We had Brazil and Portugal. I heard they tied, but that's the only score right now.
Mm.
Do you guys play today?
No, it's tomorrow at 2. Plan your trips accordingly. I can't tell my wife if I'm going to make it to New York City on Saturday or not, because she's flying. She flew up today, actually, and I'm meeting her there. We're going to spend a weekend in the city. But because the conference is over at noon,
Something like
so
that.
the game's at 2, so I have to figure out if the train will get me to New York, and I can get to a bar quickly enough to watch the U.S. play at 2. Or I might watch the U.S. here, at which point.
And then off the
If
train.
it's a point, yeah.
Well, that's why
If it's a
so
point of celebration, I
It's
just
a
want.
train.
Yeah,
That's why you're so flexible on travel.
yeah. I could do.
Right.
Although I do have to figure out where the Amtrak station is.
Coincidentally, might take place at a bar. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying? I
Exactly.
decided to poll 100 people. The internet was giving me false information, honey.
I couldn't. I had to stay. See you Sunday. We'll see.
Well, thumbs up, it was fun. If you need any other info, please let me know.
Thank you.
This is, again, like, I can't stress enough how much of a fun project it was.
If I look at the,
Did anyone
I've had a good comment
Oh,
on
good.
the
Because they are
Hobby Lobby
wonderful.
shoe. Hobby Lobby exploded.
I forgot you were wearing it.
Well, I'm hoping to be out of it pretty soon, but hopefully next week. I'd like to take it off now if I could. I probably could get away with it, but yeah, if I have to wear an ugly orthopedic shoe, I might as well have fun with it.
Yeah, I thought it was a regular shoe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Really, Chris was a little glitzy.
That was impressive. You came to work with that.
Well, it was a dare, actually.
Yeah.
It was
Really?
a dare. I did it on the dare. I was complaining about the shoe, and Maria was saying, "Oh, put some blame on it." I was like, okay, well, why not?
Yeah. It's the pink glitter that really, that sets the stage.
Yeah, nothing
And
says,
the little flower by
nothing says you
themselves.
don't have enough to do than glitter to orthopedic shoes, so.
Well, you've been in it long enough. It was a good use of your time.
I really had no idea that a broken toe could take 2 months out of my life.
It's a big
Unbelievable.
deal.
I broke it back in April, and it's just been, it's
Yeah,
really been
toe is a
so
very
crazy.
big deal.
And the look on my face when I went to the doctor and he was like, it's not healing right. We're
Have you
gonna
ever shared
have
how
to
you
knock you
broke
out and
it?
do surgery on you. I was like, what? So,
Have you ever shared how you broke it? I know you were.
being clumsy.
Okay. No.
Being clumsy.
But you were up in Tennessee, right?
Yeah, I was at my sister's house. I was on her deck and I wasn't paying attention, and I had open-toed shoes on, and I turned to walk, and I went straight into a step like that. And I just went down the whole deck, started complaining on. So it was not pleasant, but that's what I get for being clumsy.
Dangerous open-toed shoes.
Yeah,
Don't worry,
yeah,
you're
steel-toed
protected.
boots. Oh, everyone should wear steel-toed boots. But
I was thinking about that the other day. I've never got to play with it in Las Vegas. It's not called playing, but never got to use a chainsaw before. And one of the storms that came through it landed on 2 large branches down. My neighbor said, "Oh, you need to borrow a chainsaw? I got one." Yes. Because my family has it. A lot of members of my family do not have all their digits.
oh,
They're
really?
Yeah, stagehands
Oh,
and
the stagehand
carpenters,
stuff, yeah.
and a couple of them had them successfully put back on.
Oh,
But I have at least 3 people that are.
let me see that again. How many chains?
That's not. And so I've always steered perfectly clear
Right.
from these things that I've actually gotten. And I'm doing it. And I think, this is great. Why haven't I done this so? And then all of a sudden I went, zoom, and I came up this far from my foot.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
steel-toed shoes the next time before I do this again. Steel-toed shoes.
Yeah, we have a rule in our family. You need a spotter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If you're using that sort of tool, you need a spotter.
That's
And if it's me, I got like 9-1 dial.
That one
Voiced over
Oh, perfect. Well, what time's our bus? Is it a 5?
It's something like that.
That's at 5:15.
Is
Five
that
minutes.
We've got some time, I guess, to see if there's any more.
Is that your laptop, somebody?
That's mine. I'm gonna grab that.
Oh, okay. I can't even see.
Do we
what-
need to shut down
oh,
anything since
laptop,
we're the-
Pad of paper or something?
Yeah. Since we're the last show of the day, do we need to?
Do we need to shut anything down, or?
Do I need to get out of here?
No.
I don't know what they do.
Fix it,
I
probably.
think people
Yeah.
probably come around. See you tomorrow.
Okay, see you tomorrow. Thank you, Deb.
There we go. What school are you from?
Phoenix School of Law.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so did you ever work with Christine Niedringhouse?
Briefly, I was a circuit when she was there.
Okay.
Librarian now, so.
She was an associate director at Georgia State with us for a couple of years before she went to Phoenix.
Okay. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
I had a chance to catch up with her yesterday.
Good. How do you like it at Phoenix?
I like it. We just got fully accredited a couple weeks ago. So
Did you?
it's really good.
Congratulations.
So we feel legit now.
Oh, we always thought
I
it
still
was
have to
legit.
defend our existence once in a while, like I had to yesterday. But
You had to defend yours, how doesn't that distract your time?
yeah, it does. I mean, I understand. I mean, we're for profit and all that stuff, but if people would learn more about our model, I mean, I agree. There's probably too many law schools. We don't have open admissions. We only admit those that we think are going to be successful.
Yeah.
We're in a market that doesn't have enough law schools, so.
Well, in the same breath, I mean, in Stone Rock, it's like glass houses. How can one law school say we have too many law schools and it's your fault?
Well, the other thing, what I wish I had said was, we all agree that legal education needs to change.
Yeah.
The Harvards and Yales of the world aren't going to lead the way.
No.
So a change has to come from somewhere, and different places simultaneously is the best way to do it.
Yeah.
So, I think there's room for new thinking.
There's plenty of room. There's plenty of room, especially for different ways of approaching it. I think maybe we should actually all admit less students, but that would be.
Well, my thing is
Everyone.
I sometimes feel like the oddball I was explaining to the other instructional technologists that come up here is that I'd like to go talk to my end users. Because I have to know what they're doing to be able to find out new things that they may want to try. And, especially like with the litigation program, I've been very, very lucky that head of our litigation program, wants the students to see products,
Mhm.
case management software, trial, presentation software, evidence presentation software,
Yeah.
you name it. And so he's very receptive to including that. And of course, if I didn't take the time to talk to him about it, I would have missed that opportunity because they don't always come seek you out,
Right.
So I would like to go talk to people, but the flip side of the coin is when you're in the IT department, again, you're so focused on service tickets. Like you kind of have to wait, you're waiting for the ticket to come in, you usually get inundated with tickets. So how do you balance just closing out a ticket and fixing a problem with taking time to find out what your user is doing when you know you've got 5 more tickets by the time you close out this one? So it's really kind of tough, and I feel lucky because I have the opportunity to go talk to people and find out what they're doing and so forth. But, not everyone has that luxury, but...
No. But a lot of it has to do with the size of the school too.
Yeah, well, that's what I was
I mean,
saying.
we're relatively
We have
small, and the
55
fact that
faculty or so, so that makes it easier for me to get to know all of them. But and our students are over like 600. So
it's between 600 and 700. But since we're like you, we're 27, 28 years old, so there isn't a lot that is set in stone.
Right.
It isn't the Harvard and Yale where this is the way it's done and this is how we do it. We can always explore different ways of doing things. In fact, this year was the first time we ever had to answer the question of how do we handle emeritus faculty? And what is emeritus faculty? I mean, do you have to be designated emeritus, or if you happen to retire from the College of Law, are you emeritus? So what services do we provide? Because we haven't had any faculty retire.
That's a long way down. That's so far out. But it is nice. I feel like we can be far more responsive to students, faculty, whatever.
Right.
A lot of times we're figuring it out as we go. So.
But that's the big thing is actually taking the time to talk to people, even if it's just a call on the phone. It's not the same for me anyway, just because of my personality to just communicate via email or through social networks and stuff. But I would like to physically go talk to someone or hear their voice. And so luckily I'm in an environment where they let me do that. The faculty are very approachable, so they don't get offended if I'm trolling calls and I pop my head in and say, hey, is everything working okay? And oh, by the way, have you thought about trying something new? But I don't know, not every school has that.
No, and again, some schools, this is the tradition of how things are set up, and the relationship between faculty and support are quite wide.
Doesn't have a bigger chasm than ours.
And ours, we all, like I was saying, when we put together a group to go to football games, it's a combination of faculty and staff, and no one asked who's going. They just said, oh, I want to go, or I don't. It's all one group. Or stop emailing me.
Emails me about football tickets. I know already.
How many schools have instructional technologists?
It's actually relatively a new movement right now. There's been some interesting discussions about the role of the instructional technologist. I personally would say probably less than 10% of all schools.
You think so, really?
Yeah, it seems like a new thing. I mean, it's awesome. I think it's a fabulous idea because I think that we're trying to. As librarians, we're trying to fill that niche, but our competence in that area varies. And so, and those that are good at it, you don't feel like they can devote as much time to it as it probably needs. But it's exciting. We're getting a new director who just got his PhD in instructional technology.
Oh, great!
So this is exciting. So I'm thinking, you'll be probably open to the idea. I think it would be a nice addition to what we're working on, what we're trying to do. So.
That's great.
Very cool.
Yeah, it is. I call Chris the closer because we can build systems and faculty can have ideas, but we just never really get them together. So she kind of.
Oh, cool! Can I put on my door something?
Yeah, you're the closer.
It was nice talking
Nice to meet you guys.
And congratulations again.
Yes.
Thank you.